So hi Balaji, Maria, Chantal, Arpek. I see a lot of names I saw in many other sessions. Super nice to have you here. Hey Jerry, nice. Hey,
Yeah, nice
to see
morning.
you. Hey, hi. We have Morel also who hosted a session. So just saying hi and feel free to use the chat. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna disable the waiting room so everyone can enjoy the session. Um, Waiting room, so admit. Thank you. So, bonjour tout le monde, and welcome to the second day of PowerSkills, The Courage Strikes Back. This is hosted by the Career Advising and Transition Services of McGill School of Continuing Studies. My name is Nair Gariepi, and I'm part of the CATS team. I also have here my lovely colleagues, Emily, if you want to say hi.
Hello, hi, welcome everyone.
Fantastic. And if there's anyone else in the room, any of our CATS ambassador or members of the team, feel free to say hi. Also, they will be handling the chat and making sure that everything goes well behind the scenes. So there's a few things to know. Like I said, the session is being recorded, but it's going to be on speaker view. So make yourself comfortable and please engage as much as possible and use the chat. Tell us where you're joining us from, how you're feeling, what you want to come and learn today. And now I'll introduce our amazing facilitator today is Maria Sierra Cordoba Serrano. She's the Director, Associate Professor, and Assistant Dean of Curriculum and Program Development at McGill School of Continuing Studies. So welcome her, and I'll leave you the floor, Maria.
Thank you so much, Nayan. Thank you for, first of all, pronouncing the full name, which is already a challenge, and then all the titles. I really appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce the speaker of today, of this session. There are many, many, many sessions and very exciting ones, but this one is going to be particularly exciting, right, Stephanie? So Stephanie Corona, let's start with the formal education. I start always with the formal education, but then I go to the other features of people's background that are really interesting and make us more well-rounded human beings and professionals, right? So she holds a BA in Human Relations and an MA in Educational Technology from Concordia University. Right now, she works as the lead of student professional development at Concordia University as well as part of the Institute for Cooperative Education. From what I read around in the web pages that I could find, LinkedIn and all of that, it's clear to me that she's a lifelong learner, a good example of a lifelong learner. She loves reading, so that's those two things are really the perfect combination. An avid reader, and seems to have reinvented herself several times. Seems to have applied her prior knowledge in educational technologies to now in a new, not exactly field, but area, experiential learning. And that's quite important right now because most internships, practica, and experiential learning experiences have been moved to the virtual world, right? So that requires a huge adaptation and a very agile mindset. And that's going to be the topic of her workshop today. So Stephanie, you have the floor. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So hi everyone, welcome to my workshop for the PowerSkills conference. So I'm really excited to be here, and I really appreciate all the work that the PowerSkills team put into organizing the session today. So very quickly, I'm just going to go over a little bit about my background. I know Maria Sierra already introduced me, but I also just wanted to share that I'm coming into the session. Also, I have a passion for helping learners succeed while cultivating and nurturing their talents and abilities. And I'm really passionate about creating diverse and inclusive learning environments where I demonstrate compassion and care for learners. So it would also be great to hear in the chat briefly where everyone else is coming from. So, if you feel comfortable sharing your name, where you're working or where you're studying, and I'd also love to hear briefly, if you can, why you were interested in attending this session. So just a couple of things about how the session is going to proceed. using Zoom. Like Maria Sierra mentioned, you can feel free to write any comments or questions in the chat, and then we'll also have time at the end to answer any questions or comments as well. And I'm going to be monitoring the chat hopefully throughout the session. And if any relevant questions come up, I'll try to answer them during my actual presentation. And I'm going to share the PowerPoint in the chat in just a minute if you would like to download it so that you can have it throughout the session. And then I can also send it to you by email if you are not able to download it or you don't download it before the session ends. That you can feel free to send me an email, and I'll put my contact information on one of the slides later on in the presentation. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second so I can write this in the chat, and then we'll get started. Okay. Oh, actually, let me just share it in the chat very quickly. Okay, so you should be able to see it in just a minute. So we'll get started now. Okay, so very quickly, the objectives for today's session are that by the end of the workshop, you're going to have the opportunity to formulate an upskilling plan, and you'll also be empowered with tools to develop a learning agility mindset. So right now we stand on the brink of the fourth industrial revolution, which is fundamentally changing how we work, live, and relate to one another. So as Maria Sierra mentioned earlier, COVID-19 has now swung the pendulum and will have a lasting impact on the practices, behaviors, and skill sets required in the post-pandemic workplace. So are we all ready? So upskilling refers to the process of learning new skills or of teaching workers new skills, and goes hand in hand with a learning agility mindset that allows workers to continually develop, grow, and utilize new strategies which will equip them for the increasingly complex problems they face in their organizations. So by the end of the session, you'll have the opportunity to formulate your own upskilling plan, and like I said, be empowered with tools to develop a learning agility mindset. The role of learning and development in organizations in this workplace transformation will also be discussed, and future-proofing your career and staying relevant in today's economy has never been more critical. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So what does this look like in practice? I first want to talk about a talent acquisition strategy and a model called build, buy, and borrow. So in the past, organizations have focused on the buy component of this model, which is hiring candidates from the outside. But more and more organizations are now starting to address their external recruiting challenges by using the build component of this model, which is developing current employees that are already in the organization. So the build component is focused typically on developing employee skills. This is important because there's a skill gap that needs to be addressed. According to the Association for Talent Development, more than 80% of organizations feel that they're facing a skills gap, and they will continue to do so moving forward. So skill development addresses both the skills gap and the candidate shortage. Since the statistics suggest that the situation isn't changing anytime soon, it only makes sense for organizations to include learning and development into their talent acquisition strategies. So having the right talent for today and developing the right talent for the future helps an organization adapt to the challenging needs of customers and the changing business environments. This is not a recruiting responsibility or a learning responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility in the organization. It also allows organizations to become more adaptable, and research actually shows that adaptability may be a better indicator of performance than cultural fit. So to make sure that employees can adapt, they should consider making trainability a quality they want to explore during the recruiting process. For example, asking behavioral interview questions about self-learning, and this approach could help the organization hire people today that will be skilled for future opportunities. It also means that individuals must be able to learn as things change over time. So we're going to go over a few key concepts to be familiar with for the session. So the first one is skilling, which refers to teaching an employee the skills they need for the job they have today. Upskilling refers to teaching an employee additional skills so they can continue to bring value and contribute to the bottom line, typically in their current role. So that's for getting or adopting new skills for current positions. And reskilling refers to teaching an employee new skills so they can do a different job. So picking up new skills for a completely different job. And learning agility refers to finding yourself in a new situation and not knowing what to do, but then figuring it out. So this is often the mindset that, for example, students within the Institute for Cooperative Education, where I work, really have to practice this skill because they go into internship environments and really have to adapt to the situations that they're in. And sometimes they're thrown into situations where they might not necessarily have all of the skills right away. So that one is really important for students in particular. So now I wanted to give a couple of examples of what this might look like in practice. So organizations and companies that are already using this upskilling concept, learning agility, etc., what it actually looks like in the real world. So the first one I wanted to share is an example from Concordia, actually, where I work. So like Maria Sierra mentioned, I'm the lead student professional development at the Institute for Cooperative Education at Concordia. I've been working there for over 6 years. I actually did my internship as an MA Educational Technology candidate at Co-op, and then I've stayed on in a few different roles for the last 6 years. So Concordia now has given all staff and students free access to a Udemy subscription until the end of September of 2021. So if you're not familiar with Udemy, it's a collection of more than 4,000 online courses that's now available to all faculty, students, and staff until at least September of 2021. And hopefully it will, the license will be renewed after that point, depending on how much we all use it. So this is an on-demand learning platform that offers a vast selection of non-academic courses, ranging from IT operations and web development to leadership, marketing, project management, and operations, and many, many more subjects. They also developed an online self-assessment tool to help all of us determine what area of skills we may need additional training in or need to pursue, whether, like we said, it's for a current role, our current program of study, or future opportunities that we might be interested in. And so how I am personally using it within my own role at Co-op and with the students that I work with is I'm now creating custom learning paths on Udemy on a variety of different topics. So for example, data science, digital marketing, drawing software, these are all really important topics that students are not only interested in, but actually need when they go into the workplace to do internships, as well as prepare for interviews. So these custom learning paths are created for students so they don't have to spend as much time searching for relevant courses. If they are interested in a certain topic or need additional resources, they go right to the custom learning path. They can enroll in it, bookmark it as a favorite, etc., and then refer to it throughout the recruitment process, as well as when they're on a work term, so when they're actually doing an internship or when they're preparing for one. I've also created custom learning paths for specific employers. So for example, Shopify, Genetech, and many others. These are top employers that Co-op works with, and they have very specific technical skills that they need and expect students to be trained in. So for example, if a student is going to be doing an interview with Shopify, they can go to that learning path and then read many articles, posts, etc., that are available online about Shopify, so they're well prepared for the interview, as well as make sure that they're well trained in the technical skills that are required to be successful in the Shopify interview, as well as when they do an internship at Shopify. And I've also created a learning path that has a lot of upcoming events. So for example, hackathons, challenges, volunteer opportunities, etc. Again, this is because for students, it's really a lot to keep track of. There's so much going on at Concordia. especially right now because everything is virtual. There are a lot of opportunities which can sometimes be overwhelming. So when they have access to a custom learning path with all of the most relevant information and it's organized in a logical way, this will hopefully encourage them to take action and take advantage of all of these opportunities. So I also wanted to share a project at the University of Waterloo that launched at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So in response to COVID, many organizations have had to pivot their businesses to an online model, but they don't necessarily have the technical and the digital skills needed to do that. So it can be hard to find people that are skilled in this area. So the University of Waterloo launched digital fundamental courses introducing students to digital marketing, web design, video marketing, problem solving, and sales. So they're non-credit courses that are free to all students to enroll and round out the work that they're already developing in the classroom and through their extensive co-op program that they have there. And they develop these courses in consultation with Canadian industry partners who excel in marketing and sales. So the students can take the courses and then apply them and help smaller businesses through co-op opportunities. So for example, Nora McRae, who's the Associate Provost of Cooperative Education and Experiential Education, said that in particular, small and medium-sized businesses may need to develop or enhance their ability to generate revenue online. So digital skills equip our students to provide assistance to these businesses interested in developing an online presence. So those are two academic examples of how these concepts are being used in the university space. And then I'm going to give a few examples of how they're being used in the corporate space and with employers, some of whom Co-op, as an example, already works with. So PwC is focusing their upskilling efforts to achieve the greatest impact in 4 different areas. So they support and encourage an employee-led approach to innovation because it's more effective to let people choose what they want to learn. That's their philosophy. They encourage their people to use their new skills to improve in their own jobs and their work with their clients. Some of the learning takes place in classrooms, or it did before COVID, but most of it takes place through self-paced multimedia and simulation game modules, or through projects in which teams learn by building and sharing new tools. So they have what's called a digital fitness app, which assesses employees' familiarity with digital technology and helps them find resources for learning and improvement. So their impact is focused on 4 areas. The first one is helping their people, then helping their clients prepare, reaching those who are at risk of exclusion, and convening dialogue. So I actually find the reaching those who are at risk of exclusion really interesting. PwC says that with 71 young people worldwide that are unemployed, and between 20 to 40% of the jobs currently held by 16 to 24-year-olds being at risk of automation by the mid-2030s, developing the skills required for the digital age is really important to them, and it's one of the most acute challenges that communities are facing. So PwC and UNICEF are collaborating to help upskill millions of young people around the world. And the collaboration supports Generation Unlimited, which is a multi-sector partnership aimed at helping 1.8 billion young people transition from school to work by 2030. So I think that's really great. Like I mentioned, I'm really interested in diversity and inclusion. So I'm really happy to highlight this aspect of what PwC is doing, because I think it has a really huge impact for young people. And then the last employer I wanted to share is Henkel. So Accenture and Henkel already joined, or they already had a relationship prior to launching this initiative. So they worked together for over 10 years on a variety of successful initiatives, and then they joined forces to roll out an upskilling program globally and at speed. So the project moved through 4 stages. So digital capabilities assessment, digital upskilling, digital talent experience, and digital talent sourcing. So the employees voluntarily participated in an assessment of their strengths and skills gaps and their aptitude in terms of digital skill trends. Then once the skills gaps and strengths were identified, the team conceptualized job family specific learning programs. And then the new talent management processes enable role assessment, performance evaluation, and talent lifecycle tracking. They also created a recruiter toolbox for digital roles within the newly introduced system, connecting skills required and candidates' resumes. So that's what they're doing. So I'd also love to hear in the chat if you feel comfortable, if you know of any other employers or organizations that are doing these type of upskilling initiatives. It would be great to hear just for all of our learning purposes. So if you happen to be looking for a job or you're interested in this area and you're looking to find employers that are already doing things like this to see if that would be a good fit for you, please feel free to write them in the chat. And then it would also help me as well for future iterations of this workshop to keep on highlighting employers that are already doing this well so that we can all expand our knowledge of what's actually out there in the real world. So now I just wanted to share quickly a few resources that are in my own toolkit for learning agility, for upskilling, and for lifelong learning. As Maria Sierra was mentioning, it's really important to me, and it's really part of the way I work and learn both professionally and personally. So a couple of resources that I recommend, for example, like I said, Udemy has been a great resource for me now that we have access to it for free at Concordia. Not only for the work that I do with the students that I work with, but for my own personal and professional development, especially related to technical skills. They have a lot of great courses. I also enjoy participating in courses through LinkedIn Learning, which is, you can actually get that access to that for free through the bank, which I can share more about later. I also enjoy listening to podcasts. I use Twitter as a resource to follow people in my field for recommendations of articles, books, events, etc., as well as LinkedIn, of course. And then I also like to keep track of all of the resources that I find through my own research. I know it can be overwhelming because there's just like so much information online and so many people are sharing so many different things. And there are some features on these platforms, for example, like LinkedIn, you can save articles or resources, but that can get a little bit overwhelming and you don't have them really organized in a very efficient way. So I like to use the website called Pearl Trees, which allows you to create essentially folders for whatever topics you're interested in, and then you can save any web links, articles, any kind of online resource in that particular folder. So for example, 2 months later, if you are doing a workshop on a specific topic, you have access to all of these resources to help you develop that content, and it's all organized in an efficient way. And you can do that for any topic that you're interested in or anything related to your work or your academic background. I also really like using Google Docs for all of my note taking. So like I mentioned before, I'm an avid reader. If it's a book related to a professional topic, I typically take notes on the book and then I have them in Google Docs so that, like I said, I can refer back to them later. For example, if I'm developing a learning materials or facilitating a workshop on a certain topic and I want access to my notes from that particular reading that I did. And then I really like a website called Goodreads, like I said, again, to keep track of all the books that I would like to read, as well as the books that I have read in case people ask me about them. And again, you can create categories for your books so that they're organized in an efficient way. So if you're looking for a book on a certain topic 2 months from now, it's categorized so that you can refer back to it and quickly find something to read for that particular topic. And then the other resource I wanted to share was something called the Next Idea Club. So this is a resource where you can actually have ebooks delivered to your device that are sort of the most popular or talked about books right now in the business and education community. They send you 2 books per season, and then you read them all at the same time, and they have events, discussions, online resources for you related to those books. So if you're looking for a way to kind of get started, if you don't know where to start, this can be a good resource because they tell you what books are sort of the popular ones or the in-demand books right now. And then you have a community where you can continue to connect with people, which is especially important right now, obviously, since we're doing everything virtually. So if you have any other recommendations of tools to share with everyone, please feel free to write them in the chat so that we can all learn together. But I just wanted to give some context and share with you my passion for this and what I use to kind of stay organized, because it can be kind of overwhelming because there's so much information out there. So now we're going to move into an interactive activity where you're actually going to have the opportunity to reflect on what I've shared so far today and how you can apply it to your own personal and professional life, whether you're a student, a job seeker, or you're working full-time, whatever situation you're in, whatever concept you're interested in learning more about, whether it's upskilling, reskilling, learning agility, etc. So Richard Boyd is the Director of Qualified Finance, and he recommends evaluating your current career direction and implementing concrete actions to upskill yourself. So this will ensure that you emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic better equipped with necessary skills to make the most out of any opportunity, and it will allow you to take further steps on your overall career trajectory, no matter where you are at in that process. So there are 5 fundamental questions that he recommends reflecting on to help you identify relevant areas for upskilling during this work from home period. So keeping your long-term goals in mind, think about what you're interested in learning more about, what will make you shine at work or in the job search process, what will make you less frustrated at work or in the job search process, and what will help you develop a competitive advantage outside of your job or professional area of study. And are you thinking holistically? So you can also refer to some of the additional resources that are in the PowerPoint presentation, which I shared in the chat, and I'll share it again in a few more minutes. If you need resources to think about how you can respond to these questions or start to get ideas. For example, something like I said, checking out the next idea book club, it could be one example of what you might do to keep on learning after today's session. So what we're going to do for the activity is we're going to individually take 10 minutes to reflect on these questions. And for example, you can do an online search to find resources that you can tap into after the session today. And then once we've all each individually reflected and done a little bit of research on our own, we're going to come back in 10 minutes. So I'll write a message in the chat and make an announcement when we're coming back. And then we're going to reflect on the research and the thinking that we've done on this area, and then we're going to share with one another. So we're going to take 10 minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and regroup and debrief on the experience. So like I said, take about 10 minutes to reflect on these questions, do a little bit of online research, and then be prepared to share whatever research that you have done or reflecting that you've done after the 10 minutes are up, and then we'll proceed with the session. And I'm going to check the chat now as we're kind of going to do that activity. I'm also going to share the PowerPoint again in case anyone just came into the session. You can feel free to download it and use the information in the slides. So just a quick check-in, everyone will probably spend about 5 more minutes on this activity, and then we're going to regroup. Okay, so I think we're going to reconvene now and continue on. We'll just maybe give everyone about like 30 seconds to kind of come back into the session after doing some of your research. And I'm going to start off by addressing some of the great comments and questions that have been coming in the chat during the first part of the presentation. So I really appreciate everyone's active participation in the chat. It's really nice to see. And there have been some great comments and questions and resources that have been shared. So a couple of questions that came up that I'll just address now quickly before moving on. A few people were asking about, can Concordia University alumni have access to Udemy? Unfortunately, as of right now, so my colleague that is managing this project has informed me that it's not available to alumni. It is only available to faculty, staff, and students that are enrolled in at least one course at Concordia. So it's not available to alumni, but that could change in the future. But unfortunately, it's not available after you graduate. That would be a great resource, though. In terms of what McGill has access to, it seems like you may have access to LinkedIn Learning, which is great. I'd love to learn more about that maybe after the session, or if someone could share more about it, and I'll definitely add that as a resource moving forward for future presentations that I do. Like I mentioned before, you can actually get free access to LinkedIn Learning through the bank. So if you have any questions about that, I can send you the information. I just realized that I actually did not include it in my presentation, but that is also another way that you can get access to LinkedIn Learning. You don't have access to all of the features of a full LinkedIn Learning subscription, but you have access to courses, which is great. So you can't create playlists, etc., but you can watch courses, so that's great. Someone was asking in the chat about whether or not through the custom learning paths on Udemy, if we help students explore career options. I don't personally do that because I work with co-op students that typically know the career path that they are going to be going on. Co-op students are quite proactive, and they know that they want to do internships and get work experience in their field of study. And so they usually have a direction that they're already going in. But that would be great for other types of students. And I know we have different programs like Future Ready at Concordia, and they have some learning paths and things like that for students. But for the work that we do at Co-op, we're typically working with students that are pretty, they have a pretty good idea of what they're looking for in their careers, or at least for their internships. So we're not doing a lot of career exploration, but this can be a great resource for students that don't really know what direction they're going in. So a couple of other great examples of tools that were shared in the chat that are a great resource to highlight are things like Coursera, Masterclass, a website called DataCamp, and then of course, this is a great point, accessing our libraries. So for example, the Concordia Library, McGill Library, or if you have access to a library in your workplace, and then other resources like the bank, which I'll share more about later. And then another comment that came in through the chat is someone was interested in learning more about technology resources related to this subject for individuals that have disabilities or accommodations. I think that would be a great topic for another workshop, and I would love to do more research into that and come up with something on that subject. We're not going to talk about that today, but that's a great point that I will reflect on for my own training. Okay, so continuing on now, we're going to do a brief learning activity where we're going to put you in breakout rooms with 2 to 3 students for about 10 minutes. So reflecting on what you just did in this exercise where you were thinking about the 5 questions and then doing a little bit of online research, you're going to have the opportunity to share that with a few people in the breakout rooms. Reflect on what actions you're committed to taking following today's session. And this can also be a great way to potentially find someone that you're networking with through this activity that you might want to connect with after the session to continue learning together. So one thing that's really important, or sometimes that helps people be more successful in this sort of learning process or commitment to upskilling or reskilling, etc., is having an accountability partner. So someone to do a course with or to read a book with. If you have to be accountable to another person, we often will end up doing the work that is required in order to prepare for, let's say, a meeting or a Zoom call or something like that with another person. So that's what I suggest that students do, is to find someone through, for example, our co-op social media pages or through their own networks on LinkedIn that they can connect with to stay accountable to accomplish a learning goal. So I think Neo is going to help me do that. So if we can create the breakout rooms now.
Exactly. Great here. So how many people you want to have in the breakout room, just to?
Maybe like 3 people in each one if possible.
Okay, 3 people in each one. Yeah, that's great. So I'm just trying to hear.
Thank you so much.
Okay, fantastic. It's a quick mathematic problem to see how many people there are active and how many people are showing in the breakout room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I did get a message from someone that said they can't join a breakout room.
No worries. So, I'll be kind of jumping people who are in empty rooms to another room. So if you're alone, don't worry, you won't be for long. Okay. So they're open. I will be unable to run through the back. Okay, fantastic. Amazing session, by the way. There's just so much content going on. Like, it's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So yeah, there's a few people that are writing in the chat that since they're at work, they're listening in and they cannot join the breakout room, so no problem.
No problem. Please join as soon as you can for those who are joining, just so people aren't left alone in the room. So you can join, no problem. Great. Fantastic. Move to room 8. Okay. Okay, nice. So there's about 3 to 4 people per room.
Okay, that's perfect. That's fine.
So, one last one here. I can join. I won't be joining either. Yeah, no worries for everyone who's not joining. They said it's on a voluntary basis. I know some of the people are also at work and doing a million things at the same time.
Yeah.
And how long do you want to keep the, because I know for the last minute, as soon as I close it, they still have a minute. So let me know a minute before.
Okay. I'm so impressed like how interactive the chat has been. I can't even like keep keep up with how many comments have come in, which is great.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to be as active as in the chat, listening at the same time. Then there's people from other sessions who are asking questions. So
thank you so much.
It's a lot of fun, but I'll definitely watch it again as a recording. I think it takes at least twice, watch something twice to really get it in.
Yeah, for sure.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there are 3 comments in the live session. Okay, great. There are a few views from people online. Is important. Oh, Hanan, great question. I don't know if you want to answer it, Stephanie.
Okay. What's the question, sorry?
From
in the chat.
Adam.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Hanan, you're asking, is it important to have LinkedIn? It's definitely a great resource. If you don't have it, I would recommend, especially if you're a student or a job seeker, but even if you're not, there's so much great information available on LinkedIn, and you can start building your virtual network that way, and it's quite easy to set up. And there's a lot of resources available online for free about how you can set up your LinkedIn profile and use it in a way for learning. So definitely, if you don't have one, it will be a great investment of great time investment to start one for sure.
Exactly, and it's free. You got your first free month of LinkedIn Learning, and like I know I'm biased because I'm a career advisor, but LinkedIn is wow, so important, and so many students are finding work through LinkedIn now. That's what's been working the best. Have a friend who just had a random thing on her headline, and because it was so unique, the company called her and said, "You're the only one we found in Quebec who has that skill." It was aiguillage, which was something that I don't even know what it is.
Okay.
So yeah, when it's more specific, it's easier for them to find you.
Yeah, I know as an example, a lot of co-op students and alumni get recruited through LinkedIn to work at Microsoft. They have like a really, they're very active on LinkedIn, and they will contact students that are not even thinking about working there because they don't even think it's a possibility for them, and they get recruited that way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's free, and like don't have to be too active, but just having it. Worst case can happen is that you don't use it.
Exactly. So at McGill, you have access to LinkedIn Learning for free?
Yeah. Okay. So far, it's only for staff, faculty, and everyone who works there.
Okay.
Hopefully, they will add it also to the students, but a lot of the people I meet are in transition. So often we're just doing more of a career exploration and yeah, sharing a little bit of the LinkedIn Learning to get started.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay, so maybe we'll give like 2 more minutes, and then we can give the 1 minute to close.
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe at 11:25 we can start closing them if possible. Thank you so much.
So 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Great. I love now. I don't know if you use it the live transcript, like.
You know what? We don't have access to that at Concordia, unfortunately. Our Zoom account or whatever you call it through Concordia, we don't have the transcription, which is not great for
the audible.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But I think it's pretty easy. So there's a lot of features that are not really a cost added. So I know even interpretation and things like this, I thought it was an extra fee, but I just had to ask, and they say it's a free service. Only your account manager has to request it. So maybe look into that, because if you look at the live transcript, for me, it's saving me. Like sometimes some people might talk really like low, but the transcript will still show it, and you can also see all the past conversation. So when we're going to record when the session will be recorded, you can also follow the speech while reading or going back to some certain parts. So anyways, I'm big fan.
Okay. I'm going to look into that more. I might ask you about that in another outside of the session.
Yeah, so it's fun. A lot of speakers are sharing also best practices, resources, and tips. Like I've got a long list of things to look at next week.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. Yeah.
Great. So now we're 25. So I'll close the room and give them a minute.
Okay, perfect.
Well, it's not me that gives a minute. It's automatic. Great, so 24. So people are having fun. You know, when you're closing the breakout room, people see that they can log out. So when they stay normally, it's because they're having fun and having an engaging conversation. So I'm happy to see that.
Great, thank you. I think I just stopped sharing my screen by accident. Sorry. Sorry.
Hopefully, nice to see everyone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No more breakout room.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone for participating in the breakout room activity and doing the little reflection exercise. I hope it was helpful for you. And so just to do a little processing of the activity, it would be great to hear in the chat what you feel was your key takeaway from doing the activity and what one action you're committed to taking following the workshop related to what you've been reflecting on. So I can also give everyone some ideas of what people are looking into. And like I said, if you're looking for an accountability partner, maybe connect with someone after the session that is also interested in something similar to you. And we can all continue building our networks in that way. Okay, great. So someone is saying it was really inspiring. You were inspired by your fellow members that you worked with. Wonderful. Someone is saying they feel more motivated to take online learning courses and get organized digitally. Okay, that's great. Staying motivated. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone contributing in the chat. That's really great. Okay, so I'm going to continue on now, and I want to share some additional resources with you that you might find helpful as you take action following the session today. And like I said, I'm going to share my contact information at the end of the session. So if you do come across any other resources that you think would be helpful for other people in the future, please feel free to reach out to me at any time and send me your recommendations so that I can continue growing the session in the future. I'd love to hear from you after the workshop today. So just quickly, I have added quite a few articles. So some of the articles are some of the resources that I used to prepare the presentation today, as well as other resources related to these topics of upskilling and learning agility that I've read or that I found helpful or I will be using in future work that I do. So there's lots of great articles here. They're all linked. There's also some resources, for example, which we don't have time to get into today, but related to time boxing and time management. So this is the concept of making time to actually get these things done, because I know that obviously we're all really busy with, full-time work, full-time study, sometimes doing a combination of both, and it can be challenging to fit this into our already busy schedules. But there are lots of resources on time management, productivity, and a concept called time boxing, which I find really helpful to make sure I get all of my work done, but then still have some time to continue my own learning, which will then help me be more productive actually in my own job and in my personal life. And then also some articles about executives that have this kind of a learning agility mindset and incorporate this into their routine. So for example, one CEO of a company wrote an article about how she spends time every morning listening to a part of a course on LinkedIn Learning and how it's a great return on investment for her career development. And then, like I said, I've also linked to things like the Big Idea Book Club, which I mentioned before. And I also wanted to let you know that the Institute for Cooperative Education at Concordia, which is where I work, we're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, so 40 years at Concordia. And we have some great online learning events coming up in February and March of 2021 on a variety of different topics. So again, online events such as this workshop are great ways to continue your learning. So there are some sessions on equity, diversity, and inclusion and how it relates to work integrated learning. They're also doing a session on women in STEM and work integrated learning, as well as how artificial intelligence is changing the recruitment landscape. So I've linked to the article here, and it will also link you to the registration pages for these events. They're free, and I think they're like about 90 minutes long at 12 o'clock a few times in February and March. So we'd love to have you at the events if you're interested in learning more about co-op or just about these topics in general. We already have some great speakers lined up for the events. And then so continuing on, like I mentioned, I think podcasts are also a really great way of learning because, for example, they're not too long usually, but they usually can be quite impactful. So this is just like a very small listing of specific episodes of podcasts that I've listened to that are Canadian that I found really helpful. So the Conference Board of Canada has a couple of really great podcasts that I mentioned are not too long, but they're very interesting. So I've linked the specific episodes related to this topic of upskilling and learning agility, but of course there are many more. And if you have any recommendations of podcasts or other resources, feel free to leave them in the chat, or like I said, share them with me afterwards. That would be great. And then I wanted to share some books on this topic. So like I mentioned before, reading for me is one of my top ways that I continue to upskill and have a learning agility mindset. Out of all of the different ways that we can do that, reading for me has always been the one that I most enjoy and that I do the most often. Like I said, I know it can be overwhelming though, especially if you're not a reader yet, or you want to get into this habit. So if you're looking to start the habit, or if you're looking for recommendations for books specifically on this topic, these are just some of them that I've either read myself or have been recommended, or will be reading in the future on this topic that can get you started and get you into the right mindset. And then I also wanted to share the Institute for Cooperative Education social media pages. So I run the social media for Co-op, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram specifically. If you're a student and you're in the session, it's great to connect with us on Instagram, because I share a lot of photos that I receive from students that are actually in the workplace. Less so right now, I guess, because we're all virtual. But it gives students an idea of what it's actually like to be in the workplace, to see what it's actually like through photos. Facebook and LinkedIn, like I said, we're very active. I post a lot of resources on things like learning agility. So courses that you can take advantage of, events that are free, especially right now with everything being virtual. There's so much going on. You're never short of opportunities. It's just finding the right ones or making time for them, I would say. So lots of events, articles, resources that can be helpful if you're interested in the topic of career development or work integrated learning. And also, if you're looking to build your virtual network, connecting with Co-op on social media is a great way to do that. So you can feel free to follow us there. And then now we're just going to talk about some next steps. Someone is asking in the chat, is it possible to get the list of recommended books? Sure, if you want like a specific list or links to the actual books, I can definitely create that. You could just send me an email and I can share that with you maybe early next week. If I can I'll make a list. So like I said, I'm really passionate about this topic, and I want to encourage people to keep on learning about it, pursuing this, and making this part of your career development practices. So if you click on the SurveyMonkey link here, I'm going to do a little book giveaway for everyone that is in the session today, because I really appreciate everyone participating and writing, really actively engaging in the chat. It's been great, and asking great questions and being very supportive. So if you want to enter the giveaway to win one of the books that was on that previous slide, you can fill out the SurveyMonkey by Wednesday, January 27th at 5 o'clock. So you're just going to have to give your name, your full name, and the title of the book you'd be interested in reading from that previous slide. And then I'll randomly select a winner, and we'll have one winner from the session today to have a book sent to them from Indigo from the list. So you can get started learning more about this topic. So there's some questions coming in the chat. Oh, sorry. Can you post the URLs, please? The links are not active on an iPad. Okay, sure. Yes, I'll post a link to the survey, the little giveaway for sure in just a minute. And I'll also share the PowerPoint again. And if the link doesn't work or you can't get the PowerPoint now, like I said, feel free to send me an email. I'm going to share my contact information in just a second. Or if you need the link to a book or whatever, just like I said, send me an email. I'd be happy to help you with that. Okay, so before we wrap up the session, like I said, I'll stay online afterwards for any questions because we'll have time for a few minutes of questions. It's no problem. But I just wanted to know what your key takeaway is from the session. If you have any feedback that you'd like to share, and if you have any other topics that you're interested in, like related to this subject. I know like one student, someone was writing in the chat about how this relates to individuals with accessibility needs. I think that would be a great topic for another session, but if you have any other ideas, please feel free to write them in the chat. And if you have any specific questions, you can let me know. And I'm also going to share my contact information here. So this is where you can find me after the session today. So you can feel free to send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn. And if you have any other questions, comments, etc., please feel free to write them in the chat. Thanks, everyone. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Everyone's so nice. Yeah, we will coordinate. So Naya was writing in the chat that we'll coordinate how to share the slides, the recording, and any other materials. If it would be helpful, I can definitely put together like that list of books for everyone, so it's in a bit of a more accessible format for you all to check out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So normally we always, so we have the whole participant list. So there was about 200 people. So I know a lot of people couldn't join today. So we're gonna participate. We're gonna talk together on how to share all of this material, where you can find the recording, and all of the good stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Great. So I'm gonna be sharing the cat's information here.
Okay, someone was asking how to access LinkedIn for free. I didn't actually put this in the presentation. So maybe what I'll do is I'll add it and then send it my updated PowerPoint to Nayo. I guess we can share the PowerPoint, right? Nayo, is that possible to share? So I'll update the PowerPoint with that link because I didn't put it in the PowerPoint. But if you want to Google it before, then you can Google the bonk and then LinkedIn. I'll try to find the link maybe right now actually and add it. Just gonna stop sharing.
And let me just look here if Maria is with us. Yeah. So if you want to say a quick word before we end. So we still have 20 minutes. I guess we won't go all the way till the end, but if we want to just say a quick word to end the session. Thank everyone.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself, so I wasn't trying to make you suffer. It's just that I was having a hard time to unmute myself, and that happens quite often, right?
Yes,
people
it
waiting
happens
for
to all of us.
Say something. It's like, yeah, I wish I could. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I loved how engaging and active the participation was. I really enjoyed as well the mini group. Thank you for all the resources that you have shared beyond what we know as well, reading material. I think that we have a lot to think about, a lot to absorb. And again, as good examples of lifelong learners, we'll be doing that little by little. It's difficult to find the time sometimes to do all the things we want to do. That's what I find more challenging. You as well have talked about managing time to be a lifelong learners. I'm really impressed with all the material that you have provided in terms of tools, insight about what you do at Concordia, how you customize learning paths. I love the concept of a learning path, which doesn't apply only to typical learners or traditional learners. In the group that I was having a conversation with, we didn't have, we already have a job. We were not thinking about how can I get the next job, but it's how can I continue this learning path? And so when we think about learning, there are many different profiles, and I think that the School of Continuing Studies actually have all those profiles, and all of them bring different angles to how we learn and how we adapt to any new situation like the one that we're living. So So thank you very much, Stephanie. That's a great pleasure. So thank you so much to everybody for joining us. I wanted to mention that the next session is at 12:30, right, Nayo?
Yeah.
And it's a session, it's a very, very different, and it's a session on translation, but not really, we're not going to discuss the technicalities of translation. The speakers are going to show us how you can be a literate translator who does not make a lot of money, does it for the love of playing with words and enjoying art, to how you can to use those skills and transfer them to the commercial world. And so how can you use any skills that you think that are not, that you may think that you just do as a hobby, that are just not applicable to the workplace? How can you recycle them? And actually, those can be very useful skills that you can use in another sphere of your professional life. So that will be at 12:30. That will be with Anne-Marie Boulanger and Eric Dupont. And for the people here who like Quebec literature, he's a very well-known Quebec writer. So he's very entertaining, and so he will be moderating the discussion. It will be more of a conversation. So thank you very much for being here, and I invite you to attend the next session. And just to finish, and I won't forget, if you enjoyed this, the PowerSkills this year, please give and help us to collect some, not only knowledge, but also a little of money, so that we can make this possible again next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
And thanks, exactly. So we're going to be also, there's a lot of resources in the chat that we're going to try to compile and add to the PowerPoints.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Go and watch the recording again and again. I hope you took a lot of notes, and yeah, I'll see you in all the future sessions. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Hope we can collaborate again.
Sorry, Nayo, when are most of the recordings going to be available?
Let me just share the link right now in the chat. So I'm going to share both links. So we have it on our Facebook page. We have it here on our Facebook page and on our YouTube, but I'm just going to be sharing them here. And
it'll be on the website of McGill as well, or I had the Facebook page already.
Okay, so we have, so that's the complication, because we have so many sessions happening at the same time. So we have a few on our Facebook page, a few on our Facebook account, and a few on our YouTube page. At the end, next week, we will all combine them in a nice, simple spot. They're going to.
They were there already, some of them.
Okay, great. And it's nice to meet you, Deborah. I heard your name also. I think you know Rosalia.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Always happy to see her friends. So I'm just gonna stop the recording. So like that.